It's stupid,
Hey,
right?
guys.
What are you still doing here, old man?
I'm gonna you up. What? That's my offer.
A man sits in an interrogation room. Calmly, he reaches into his jacket with cuffed hands and pulls out a cigarette. Then, as if this weren't strange enough, he sets a can of tuna on the table like he's at home. He cracks it open, and a small cat crawls out from his coat to eat from the can. Across the table, the agents exchange glances, trying to make sense of what they're seeing, or who they're dealing with. But the man remains composed, answering their confusion with a coolness that feels almost rehearsed. Before all this, he was just another face in the crowd. Mornings filled with routine, jogs, coffee, push-ups, always missing the garbage truck by a few seconds. 7 days a week, the same pattern. He has a wife, 2 kids, a job that looks like construction or manufacturing, and waits for the bus like everyone else. Nothing memorable, just a regular life no one would look at twice. A nobody. But that life cracks one night when he wakes up to a noise downstairs. His wife and daughter are asleep, but his son isn't. Quietly, he moves through the dark house, stopping just before the stairs. A silhouette creeps across the room with a flashlight in hand. Within reach is a set of golf clubs. He grabs one, and with his free hand, he tries to dial emergency services on the landline. That's when they come out of the shadows. 2 masked intruders. One holds the flashlight and the other points a gun.
Your money.
But there isn't much to take as he mostly uses cards. Frustrated, the woman with the gun scoops up a bowl of loose cash and shoves it into her pocket. The man holds his hands where they can see them, one still clutching the club. The second intruder comes back, empty-handed, no valuables found. The woman's eyes land on his wristwatch, then his wedding ring, and she moves in. Suddenly, commotion erupts. The son tackles the man with the flashlight, while the woman whips her gun toward the boy, shouting at him to let go. The father is right behind, club in hand. It's the perfect opening, but he freezes. He tells his son to release the man as the struggle on the floor intensifies. The woman redirects the gun at the father, and again, he urges his son to back off. Frustrated, the boy shoves the intruder away, only to get slammed in the face with a brutal punch. The attacker turns his rage toward the father, shoving him hard as if to say, "Keep your son in line." From the top of the stairs, the mother appears, pleading for calm. The woman with the gun wants to leave, and after a tense moment convinces her partner to let it go. He grumbles about wasted time and storms off, with her close behind. Hutch exhales deeply once they're gone. He offers a hand to his son, who's still on the floor and furious. But the boy,
What the Dad?
and walks off without a word. When the police arrive, they go through the usual motions, questions, notes, and assessing the scene. Hutch's eyes remain fixed on the garage door, still propped open with a pizza box. A flimsy piece of cardboard. That's all it took for 2 strangers to walk into their lives and threaten everything. One of the officers snaps him out of it, voice edged with judgment. He doesn't say it outright, but the implication is clear. Because his family was involved, he should have at least used the golf club, doing anything to save his family. Hutch removes the pizza box from the door and heads back to bed, but sleep doesn't come. Restless, he ends up downstairs on the couch where his daughter finds him and curls up beside him. She tells him she isn't scared as long as he's around, but maybe they should get a cat. By morning, life seems to be returning to normal. The man keeps. At breakfast, the son mentions a school project. He needs to write about a veteran for history class. His mom suggests writing about his uncle while his dad offers talking about his grandfather. Both names carry the same quiet suggestion of being a cut above Hutch. Word spreads fast. A neighbor brings up the break-in, and Hutch keeps catching sideways comments about the golf club, about how he didn't even use it. At work, it's no better. His brother-in-law already knows as his nephew told him. Hutch tries to downplay the whole thing until Charlie corners him and pulls out a loaded handgun. He insists Hutch take it, and whether he wants it or not, Hutch is left holding the weapon, contemplating what to do with it. For Charlie, it's not optional because he wants his sister protected. Hutch works at a family-run business owned by his father-in-law, Eddie. He's been eyeing the place, hoping to buy it out, but Eddie calls it a bad deal and turns him down. Even if he understands why Hutch wants it, he gets it. The desire to finally own something, to have one thing in the world he can point to and say, That's mine. Back on the job, things settle into routine. The workers are downstairs, handling heavy machinery, cranes grinding against steel. Meanwhile, Hutch is upstairs, tucked away in an office, surrounded by paperwork and files. He locks the door behind him and pulls out a bottle of liquor. Then he switches on an old tape recorder. The VU meter lights up with a soft hum. Jazz music begins to play as he settles into a chair. Hutch comments on the song, and a voice responds. It's not a recording. He's having a live conversation through the device. The voice listens, giving Hutch space to talk, so he begins to unpack the incident, the one that's now made him look like a failure. From his perspective, the thieves were young and clearly inexperienced. The woman's gun stood out to him, not just because it was old, but because it was empty. That's why he didn't strike her. He saw the revolver was unloaded. The voice sympathizes, understanding why Hutch didn't do what everyone expected. There's a quiet familiarity in the way they speak, like they already know what's going through his head. Before the conversation ends, the voice offers a warning that Hutch shouldn't do anything stupid. Hutch visits his elderly father, just looking for a quiet place to sit and reflect. But he's soon back there again, this time stirred by something small but nagging. His daughter mentions she's missing her cat bracelet. It had been in the same bowl the woman thief had gone through. Now Hutch is upset. His father, a retired FBI agent, still keeps his badge and a warm jacket Hutch borrows for what's starting to feel like an adventure. He also takes a revolver and enough bullets to last several rounds, leaving on his father's approval. On the night of the burglary, Hutch had caught a glimpse of a tattoo on one of the intruder's wrists. Now, he's in full investigation mode, sketch in hand flashing a worn FBI badge as he makes his way through a series of tattoo parlors. At one stop, someone sees through him immediately. The man behind the counter calls out the badge for what it is, expired and not his. Hutch doesn't argue. Instead, he pulls out some cash, hoping it'll speak louder, but the gesture rubs the room the wrong way. The others in the shop start to close in, clearly reading Hutch as a nuisance, maybe even a threat, someone they might need to deal with. Hutch doesn't flinch, but holds his ground, daring them to come take the money if they want it that badly. That's when one of them notices the tattoo on Hutch's own wrist and everything changes. His expression shifts to recognition and then respect. He knows where Hutch comes from. Quietly, he backs off, and tension in the room deflates. The others easing up. Hutch points to the picture of the tattoo resting on their table. He's looking for whoever it belongs to. Dinner's served, and the wife calls for her husband Luis to come join her. She sees him first, a man emerging from the hallway, and he strikes Luis with the butt of his gun before she can warn him, or Luis can even turn to react. With the gun in Luis's face, Hutch demands his watch. She quickly removes it and hands it over, but they don't know anything about the cat bracelet. That's what Hutch is after. Riled up, he knocks over the chair Luis is sitting on, sending the man crashing to the floor. It puts Hutch right where he wants to be, standing over him, gun aimed, shouting for his daughter's bracelet. Luis is screaming and bleeding as Hutch flicks off the safety. In the background, his wife sobs quietly while reaching for a knife. Then, a baby's cry drifts into the room and catches Hutch's attention. He follows the sound and finds a sick infant lying in a crib. The gun is still in his hand, and the parents, now at arm's length, beg him to leave. After a moment of thought, he turns and walks out. Outside, in the rain, he finally lets the anger out, slamming his fist repeatedly into a brick wall. His knuckles are raw as he rides the bus home. He's got his watch back, but it means little as he still feels empty, far from satisfied. The bus is quiet, with only 3 other passengers besides the driver. Everything feels calm until a car swerves, crashing through traffic cones and into a cement barrier. The bus comes to a halt, and a group of men stumbles out of the car like cockroaches, loud, drunk, and unapologetic. They bang on the bus, demanding to be let in, and Hutch hopes the door opens. The driver does, and the men file in. They first size up the other male passenger, who's big, like he could handle himself, but he chooses not to engage and leaves instead. Hutch stays seated as the group turns their attention to the young woman nearby. They surround her like hounds circling prey. That's when Hutch decides he can't sit still. He walks past them, heads toward the front, and calmly ushers the driver out, closing the door behind her, even as she protests. Then he just stands there, alone, waiting for their attention. They notice, so he pulls out his gun and empties the chamber, causing bullets to clatter to the floor before he delivers a line that makes them all laugh.
I'm gonna f*** you up.
One dude offers to take out the trash for the rest. As Hutch approaches, the guy inches closer and lands a punch that sends Hutch reeling back. He catches himself before he can fall, then comes right back with a punch of his own. Hutch has two guys to deal with at once, and they hit him back to back. Just before one can land a third blow, Hutch dodges and rams into the second guy, giving him a sharp follow-up hit, right as the one behind him drives a punch into his back. Once he's over the initial jab of pain, Hutch strikes back fast with an elbow. One attacker swings at him with a bottle, and Hutch grabs it, slams it into one face, then smashes it over another's head. Two left. He slams one into the headrest of a chair, then into the metal rail meant for standing passengers. The last guy pulls a blade and slashes Hutch across the calf, but Hutch manages to flick him away before more damage is done. The fight's far from over. The ones he dropped keep getting back up and ramming into him. At one point, he's got two locked under each arm until a third man kicks him, sending him flying into a seat. Everyone's bloodied, cramping with pain. Hutch yanks the blade from where it's been lodged in his side. One of the attackers sees an opening and charges, but Hutch turns the blade in time, forcing it up the guy's wrist. The man screams in pain, giving Hutch just enough time to land simultaneous blows to his head. The next one that comes gets a jab straight to the thigh. A kick from Hutch's leg drives the blade even deeper and shoves his opponent away from him. He grabs another and wraps the pull cord around the man's neck, clumsily trying to strangle him while pinning him to the bus window, even using the man's head to try and break through it. Others rush in from behind to peel Hutch off their guy, but he shakes them off, then pulls back just enough to ram into the pinned man again. This time, he misses and crashes straight through the window himself. Glass shards everywhere. He picks himself up, ignores the driver's concerns, and staggers back onto the bus. He stoops and cuts a strip from a seatbelt, telling the girl who's still tucked inside the bus to run. She doesn't think twice. Hutch uses the strip of seatbelt to strap the blade to his palm, but suddenly, he's not the only one with a blade. The first one who charges gets two quick jabs and a firm grip from Hutch, who then slices another on the side and turns back to deliver more hits. One for the first guy again, then the second, and then a third. But the momentum shifts. Hutch stumbles and loses the blade after headbutting one of them. Thinking fast, he grabs a satchel, slams it into a guy already slipping out of consciousness, then twists the bag strap around the man's neck, looping the other end over the overhead rail to leverage the man upward and watch him choke. He's seconds from finishing the job when he spots the guy who brought the blade crawling around to collect bullets and reload Hutch's gun. Hutch rips out a pole and smacks the gun just as it goes off, knocking the shot off course. Then he strikes once, then again, the second hit, catching the man in the jugular and sending him down choking. With everyone else finally out cold, Hutch pulls the blade from someone's thigh and grabs the soda cup, the same one the young woman left behind. He then carves an opening into the already gurgling man's throat and slides the straw in, a signature touch. Then he walks off the bus and hands the bus operator device back to the still stunned driver waiting outside, apologizing for the mess before strutting off. No care for the closing in sirens. Hutch returns home, trying to quietly make his way upstairs, but his wife's still downstairs, not in bed, a glass of wine in hand. She casually asks where he's been, and he steps into the light, letting the bruises speak for him. Shirt off, he sits as she tends to his wounds. He's been bowled all night, so he doesn't hold back now. He tells Becca he misses her, and that the distance between them has left a mark deeper than any bruise. It doesn't earn him a kiss, but the message lands. He gets up and continues toward the bedroom. With Becca smiling softly and caressing his arms, Hutch finally gets a peaceful night's sleep. Meanwhile, Julian drives recklessly down the center of a divided road, nearly crashing into oncoming traffic. He cuts through like he owns the pavement, unfazed by the blaring horns and screeching tires that follow in his wake. He strides across the street with no regard for the chaos he causes. Fear doesn't register. At the club, he's a familiar face, greeted with cheers and handed a free shot by the bartender. After casually sniffing something off the base of his thumb and performing with a sultry songstress on stage, Julian turns to business, a meeting with the Obshok's handlers. He's here to assure them he's got their money covered, even if he looks more showman than strategist. Midway through, he casually breaks a wine glass, and before long, he's face to face with a man who gave him a hard look earlier. Without warning, Julian stabs the man in the face with the broken glass, dragging it with manic precision across his features before slicing his throat wide open. When questioned about the murder, Julian just shrugs. He doesn't even know who the guy is, and the Obshok men don't seem to care either. The deceased's Hutch's 3% stake transfers instantly to them, meaning Julian has made his point. Then comes a call. His brother Teddy is in the hospital, badly beaten, and rage simmers to a boil. Julian storms into a ward, interrogating his injured crew in his usual brutal way. One of them gets his already broken legs shattered further with a chair, but the truth comes out that one man alone did this to all of them. Julian is incensed. Luckily, his men managed to keep the attacker's contact card, and now Julian has a name. Back at home, Hutch is making breakfast when the phone rings. The voice on the line chastises him for crossing a line by attacking Julian's brother. But Hutch doesn't take kindly to threats, especially during family time. He hangs up. Later, at work, he keeps getting messages directing him to the barber. When he finally visits, the barber is ready, and the seriousness of the situation starts to settle in. Hutch realizes he may have just stirred something big. Julian, on the other hand, is digging. He has his tech team scouring the internet for any trace of the mystery man, but Hutch has kept a clean digital footprint with no paper trail or red flags. The only lead they managed to pull is his old father, not much to go on. Still, Julian isn't about to let this go. If the internet won't hand Hutch over, he'll bend the world until it does. His hacker resorts to blackmail, targeting a Pentagon staffer using footage of his secret sexual encounters, all to squeeze out classified intel that might lead them closer to their man. Meanwhile, the barber continues laying out Julian's background, his hot-headed nature, his tendency to do things his way, and his role as the ruthless custodian of the Obshak's finances. At the Pentagon, the blackmailed official can't grant digital access, but manages to secure physical documents detailing Hutch's background. Julian's hacker gets her hands on them and immediately gets cold feet. Even from a glance, she knows this isn't someone to mess with. She doesn't wait to read more and hands Julian the documents, announcing her resignation on the spot. Julian gets the message. This man is dangerous, so he sends out strict orders to his team that Hutch must be taken alive. Back home, Hutch is still playing the part of the doting father and husband, creating warmth and calm in his house. With quiet wisdom, he suggests a family trip. Everyone's on board, and Becca especially loves the destination. But the idea wasn't just sweet, it was strategic. Hutch has caught wind that Julian's men are closing in, so he moves fast, sending his family to the basement. Becca questions it, but he leaves her with a kiss and a simple warning that she should stay put. No matter what they hear, they don't call for help. Led by Pavel, the hit squad infiltrates the home, moving through rooms and corridors with military precision. Hutch is ready, and he takes out the first two with a baton. One knocked out by the heavy end, the other impaled by its sharpened edge. Hutch slips through the house like a ghost, using stealth and skill to ambush and eliminate his enemies in seconds. But then he takes his first hit, Pavel. With 5 men down, Pavel finally gets the upper hand, using a taser to drop Hutch. They drag him unconscious into the trunk of a car. To Pavel, he's a prize, a trophy for Julian. But the ride back isn't smooth. Hutch regains consciousness in the trunk, and he frees his hands from the cuffs, opens a hidden compartment, and finds a fire extinguisher. There are only 3 team members left. Hutch forces his way into the back seat and sprays the extinguisher full force, disorienting the men and sending the car flipping into a brutal crash. He's the first to climb out, having braced himself, but the others aren't so lucky. Only Pavel survives, staggering from the wreck with serious injuries. He looks at Hutch, stunned. What kind of man had he been sent after? Hutch, calm and unpretentious, explains. He worked for secret branches of government security, not as a hitman or a soldier, but as something worse, an auditor, the kind of man who only shows up when it's time to pass judgment. After giving his dad, David, a heads up via call, Hutch goes back home to the mess. The furniture broken, walls stained with blood, and bodies littered on the ground, half gone, paralyzed. Hutch takes a warm bath, rinsing off the blood and sweat, trying to wash away more than just the grime. But the truth he's avoided all his life still waits for him. He leads his family out of the basement into the aftermath upstairs, a scene he hadn't wanted them to witness. Becca looks around, stunned, while the kids stand frozen, fear written across their faces. Still, Becca doesn't retreat or demand answers, only assures Hutch she'll take the kids somewhere safe, even without knowing the full story. But the question lingers between them. Who is this man she married? It's a question Hutch promises to answer, just not yet. First, there's something else he needs to do. He returns to the men he left behind. Some are conscious, some still trying to move, and gives them context, peeling back the first layer of who he is. He tells them how it started. It was a job like any other, except this time, the man he was sent after broke the pattern, but he got a sincere sincere apology and a reason that made sense, so instead of pulling the trigger, Hutch walked away, and that man changed. He built a life, had a family, and took responsibility. It left a mark on Hutch and sparked something he hadn't expected. The idea that maybe he could change too. That hope led him here. As he leaves, he activates the building's torch protocol, and outside, he watches the flames consume his home, which is a necessary sacrifice. He doesn't flinch, even as neighbors scatter in panic, walking away slowly, eyes on the blaze, emotions held tight beneath the surface. Meanwhile, Julian's men storm a quiet room in an old folks' home, thinking they've cornered Hutch's father, David. But David, though aged and seated, isn't helpless. Without so much as lifting his body, he raises a single finger, enough to fire the double-barreled shotgun hidden beneath his blanket. The two men drop instantly. No one in this family goes down easy. Soon, David's caregiver rushes in after hearing the gunshots, but finds nothing. The bodies are gone, and David remains seated, calm and composed. It's a picture-perfect, like son moment. Meanwhile, Hutch visits Eddie and his son Charlie with a bold offer: gold bars in exchange for their warehouse building, which he plans to turn into a base. Charlie tries to act tough, but Hutch shuts that down quickly with a single punch to the gut. Eddie, unfazed, takes the deal while Charlie groans on the floor. Back at the building, Hutch starts preparing for the inevitable assault. He sharpens weapons, rigs traps, and reforges tools. In the middle of this, a call from Harry comes in. Harry's worried, not just about Hutch, but about how far things have gone. Hutch insists he's got everything under control, but Harry isn't convinced. And deep down, Hutch knows the storm's just begun. After all, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. So he takes the war straight to Obshak's doorstep. At their headquarters, he opens fire, riddling the doors with bullets and dropping unprepared guards as he moves through. Years as an auditor taught him how to handle situations with repeating consequences. Be thorough and leave no room for resurgence. When he reaches the vault, Hutch sets it ablaze. Cash, records, and men are all consumed by fire. With the Obshak burning behind him, Hutch makes his way to Julian's club. There, Julian is entertaining guests, unaware that Hutch is already within the building, dressed down, seated casually, even enjoying a meal as the evening's performance unfolds. Julian's fury explodes when he learns Hutch is in the building. Hutch calmly stands, hand on the trigger of a bomb strapped to him, warning everyone not to make a move. He demands a private word with Julian. Once alone, Hutch lays it out plainly. Obshak is done. He's raised their empire and made Julian a liability. The hit on his family has been paid for in full. But Hutch isn't without mercy. He offers Julian a way out. Disappear and start over somewhere quiet. Maybe the Caribbean. His tone is calm, measured, and even empathetic. Then he walks away, letting Julian stew in the ruins of his crumbling power and the looming threat of detonation. But Julian isn't interested in peace. As soon as Hutch leaves, he sends his men after him. A high-speed chase erupts and Hutch's car is torn through by bullets. He's forced into a cul-de-sac but finds a way out, leading them straight to his newly fortified base. Problem is, he can't get in fast enough. Then the cavalry arrives. Harry, positioned at a sniper post, starts thinning the attackers. David, ever the shotgun master, joins in from the ground. Together, they provide cover for Hutch, who dives into the chaos with renewed force. It's been years since they fought together like this, father, son, and brother. Harry even manages a one-shot
triple kill.
The traps Hutch laid earlier do their part too, blasting and disabling enemies at every turn. It's as much a reunion as it is a battle. But Julian spoils the celebration. He appears, guns blazing, hitting Harry in the shoulder. Just as the three men run out of ammo, Hutch reacts fast by grabbing a bomb, sticking it to a glass riot shield, and running headlong into Julian. The blast sends Hutch flying, but he survives with just surface wounds. Julian isn't so lucky. Burned and broken, he lies still, finally done. Later, Hutch shares a quiet moment with his family. Becca remains his hope and his tether. Before they part ways again, he records a message, promising to make things right. Eventually, Hutch finds himself in an interrogation room. He offers only a few cryptic words, enough to make the officers curious. But their curiosity is cut short when their superiors call in. Whatever questions they had, the answers don't matter anymore. Not with a man like Hutch in their custody. Months pass, and life calms down. Hutch and Becca start looking for a new house. During one visit, he gets an anonymous call. Becca doesn't need to ask what it's about, as she already knows. Instead, she simply turns to him and asks if it has a basement, as she's sure they'll need it.